Before Kansas was a state, it was a question so dangerous it nearly destroyed the nation before the Civil War even began. In the middle of the 19th century, America was expanding west. New territories meant new opportunities, but they also meant new decisions, and one decision towered above all others: slavery. By the early 1850s, the United States was split. The North and South had reached a fragile compromise. Slavery would not spread beyond where it already existed, but that compromise was about to shatter. In 1854, Congress passed the Kansas-Nebraska Act. It declared that the people living in these new territories would decide for themselves whether to allow slavery. They called it popular sovereignty. Let the people choose. It sounded democratic. It was disaster. Kansas became the testing ground. Thousands rushed to the territory, not to farm, but to vote. Pro-slavery settlers poured in from Missouri. Abolitionists arrived from the North. Each side wanted to control the outcome. Each side believed the future of the nation depended on it. Elections were held, but they were not fair. Armed Missourians called border ruffians crossed into Kansas on Election Day. They voted illegally, stuffed ballot boxes, and intimidated Free State supporters. The pro-slavery side won through fraud. A territorial government was established in Lecompton. It passed laws protecting slavery. It made questioning slavery a crime. Free State settlers refused to recognize it. They formed their own government in Topeka. Now Kansas had two governments, two constitutions, two visions of its future. Tension turned to violence. In May 1856, pro-slavery forces attacked the town of Lawrence, a Free State stronghold. They burned buildings, destroyed printing presses, and looted homes. It was a message: resistance would not be tolerated. Days later, a man named John Brown responded. He believed slavery was a sin that could only be washed away with blood. Brown and his followers killed 5 pro-slavery settlers in the dead of night along Pottawatomie Creek. It was brutal. It was calculated, and it escalated everything. The violence spread. Neighbor fought neighbor. Militias formed. Ambushes became common. The territory bled. Newspapers called it Bleeding Kansas. Over 200 people died. The question of slavery had become a war before the war. The nation watched in horror. What was happening in Kansas was a preview. If democracy could not settle this question peacefully, then war was inevitable. Kansas was the warning no one heeded. But amid the chaos, something else was happening. The people of Kansas, the ones who actually lived there, were making a choice. Slowly, the Free State movement gained strength. More settlers arrived who opposed slavery. They outnumbered the border ruffians. They organized. They voted again and again, despite the fraud. In 1857, the pro-slavery government drafted the Lecompton Constitution. It would have made Kansas a slave state. President James Buchanan supported it. He urged Congress to accept it, but the people of Kansas rejected it. They voted it down in a referendum. It was a turning point. By 1861, as the nation descended into civil war, Kansas finally entered the Union. It entered as a free state. The question had been answered. The blood had not been spilled in vain. But the cost was high. Kansas had become a symbol of everything wrong with compromise. It showed that some questions could not be solved by votes alone. It revealed the violence lurking beneath the surface of American democracy, and it proved that the conflict over slavery would not end until one side won completely. Kansas was not just a state. It was a prophecy, a land where the future was written in fire and blood, where ordinary people were forced to become soldiers in a war of ideas. The battlefield of Bleeding Kansas became the birthplace of a state that would never forget how it was born. Today, Kansas is peaceful. Its fields stretch wide under endless skies, but the scars remain, the history remains, and the question remains: what are we willing to fight for when democracy itself is at stake? Kansas answered that question long ago. It chose freedom, but it paid the price. Every nation's tale is a chapter in the history of us all. If you found meaning in this journey, please like this video and subscribe. Feel free to explore our channel to see how other nations survived their own moments of fragility. Your support ensures these stories are never forgotten. Thank you for watching.